not everyone's in favor of this moratorium on the food service industry to temporary foreign workers. Migrant workers are calling foul. Joining me from Toronto is Syed Hassan. He's from the Immigrant Workers Alliance for Change. Welcome to the program, sir. I'm wondering, the way I understand your position, you're saying let's scrap temporary foreign workers in this food industry and make them landed immigrants so they can stay around and go up the, I assume, go up the career ladder.
Hi, Don. I think we're saying two things. One is that the moratorium as it exists actually pushes migrant workers who are in the country into situations of abuse. So say you're working in a job where you're being abused, you can now no longer change the job because there's a ban on you switching jobs. Similarly, if there are workers abroad who've paid large sums of money to recruiters, you suddenly won't be able to come to the country, but you're still indebted to those recruiters. So the moratorium is a knee-jerk reaction, and it actually sidelines what is, a much bigger issue. We know that there are problems in the temporary foreign worker program, but the response then is not to blame and therefore actually punish the migrant workers. It's a much more different, much more complex, much more comprehensive solution.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I thought our labor laws applied to all temporary foreign workers and gave them the protections that they would for any other worker.
That's unfortunately not true. I mean, just here in Ontario, minimum wage laws, housing laws, healthcare laws, employment safety laws, even things like the Landlord Tenancy Protections Act actually significantly excludes migrant workers. So we need to raise the floor. The problem is that the reason migrant workers are being exploited is because provincial and federal laws actually shut them out, exclude them. There's a two-tier system, and we need to change that. We need to ensure decent work and working conditions for everyone, and that'll totally change the playing field, and that'll allow us to talk about what's really at stake, and that's an immigration system that's shutting out low-skilled workers.
So what's happening out there in the real world with this moratorium coming on? How are the migrant workers and the temporary foreign workers being treated now?
So as I said, already the program, of course, has been running for over 40 years. It has had various incarnations, and over the years we've talked about various kinds of abuses. Migrant workers have died in farms and fields. They've been abused in homes and in employers' homes and in restaurants, etc. And but now, we hope that the labor law would be improved, that the federal government would actually create a national ban on recruitment fees, which is such a massive problem. We hope that the immigration system would stop being a revolving one, but actually go back to what it's supposed to be, which is a diverse immigration system, which includes pathways for low-skilled workers. None of that has happened. This is media knee-jerk reactions to media pressure, and I think all the political parties are refusing to actually deal with the problem. They're just trying to assuage some voters, but I don't think that's working.
Are you worried that if this continues, Canadians will sort of develop a national form of xenophobia against foreign workers? Do you think that's a risk if this continues the way it's going?
I think, we have to understand that when people lose jobs, it's quite a devastating experience, right? So we know that a lot of people are without jobs in this economy and in this country, and that's because temp agencies are growing, unionized jobs are being cut, public safety jobs are being cut, and also migrant workers are losing jobs. So there is this, there's been a jobless recovery. The financial crisis of 2008 has been followed by a real shrinking of the job market. There's just too few jobs. And when that happens, people start fighting at the bottom of the barrel, particularly when, a few stories are brought up and really drummed up in the media, which shut out migrant worker voices, which make it as if there's, these few jobs that people are competing for. And yes, then there will be a lot of xenophobia. There might be further racism. So we need to step away from that and say, okay, unemployed workers and documented workers, migrant workers need to come together and talk about how to make better work conditions for everyone and a real immigration system which includes pathways, access for people who are low-skilled. I mean, that's how a lot of your viewers probably had their parents and grandparents come into the country, but there's no low-skilled pathway anymore. So people are forced to come into the temporary foreign worker program and then work in these bad conditions. So I think we need a systematic, comprehensive overview of the system. No knee-jerk reactions, no fights in Parliament.
Fair enough. Appreciate you coming on, Mr. Zan. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.